All right, peace and love to everybody. Thank you all for joining us today for this World Water Conference 24. It's a big thing going on within our community. We definitely want to make sure that we're tapped in. So provided with some knowledgeable fellas is in the game. We call them our water bearers. And we're going to tap on in. We're going to get right on into business, right? Because we're all drowning for information, right? As you can see, in the world starving for wisdom. All right, so let's dive in. All right, so I'm going to talk to you about research scientists starting off, right? Because that's what I feel like present day, this is what I am, and I know most of us up here, we all do our own research, right? So when it comes down to research, it's basically a person who conducts scientific work in a variety of fields such as biology, chemistry, and physics, right, and engineering. So for the purpose of collecting data and analyzing results, right, these scientists, I'm gonna call us scientists, right, because we all work in the water field and we study it, right, tremendously on the effects that it has on our human body. We are in the business of providing you guys wholesome, helpful information. Largely when it comes down to information is normally dealing with scientists, the research is usually tainted depending on whether the institution that is funding the information, right, the colleges, or some private source entity that is actually funding the science, right? So a lot of times the information that we receive is altered, right, for their own benefits and their own personal gain. So as an independent scientist, we have to do our own research and take control of our own health, which is most important, right? Because nobody else is going to take control of our health other than we are, right? So it's very important. And these gentlemen are actually a part of that, right? So water bearer. A water bearer is a mystical healer who bestows the waters of life upon the land to serve the people of their tribe, village, communities in order to sustain life and restore a healthy balance, right? And that are what these gentlemen are, as well as myself are, all right? So I'm gonna go ahead on down. I have James right here. He owns Water Plus. Been in business since you said
1987.
1987. So that's a long time to be in business with. Has a ton of information. Also have Chief right here. Came down from North Carolina to join us today. Appreciate you, Chief.
Yes,
coming. Has his own spring, live alkaline water, 400 feet below ground.
So over 800 feet below ground.
800 feet below ground, right? So I always believe in getting water from one or two places, either so high in the mountaintops or so far below the ground, everything else in between is a wash. And then we have Doc. Doc over here, cellular, he does waters of life, salts. He's going to talk to you a lot about the salts and the minerals that you actually need to put in your body and moves water. So with that being said, I'm going to start with Chief. You traveled the furthest away. We welcome you for coming out here today.
Yes, sir.
Tell us a little bit about what you got going on, Chief.
Well, I want to thank everybody. I want to thank Dr. Chris for inviting me to come out, and I thank the crowd. Y'all to give yourself a hand before I even get started. One of the things that we got going on in the Yackerville, North Carolina, is that we have an aquifer that has been in my family for over 450 years. The land itself has been in my family for over 450 years. So what we do is that we take that water, and you can see it on the back of the table shortly, and we take it and we bottle it. And as a natural resource coming directly from the ground with 108 different trace minerals, we bottle that water, we take it and we create jobs for the community, for our community, for the people outside of our community. And that's one of the things that we do. And as we go on, I get into a little bit more details because I don't want to get too deep right now into it, but we have the best water on the planet. And I can tell you that. Try it and you won't regret it.
Thank you, Chief. All right, and we got Doc over here. Doc, author of a popular book as well. And I'm gonna let Dr. go ahead and brag a little bit about himself. The doctor, very knowledgeable. I'm always in awe of having conversations with him. Just real briefly, I'm sorry. I met Chief through an individual actually that was traveling down there towards him and didn't know him longer than a few hours, and ended up picking him up on the side of the road, and he took me down there, Chief. So it's a wild, crazy story, but me and Chief actually share our birthdays a couple of days apart.
Exactly.
So, water has a remarkable thing of bringing and uniting people together. And it has brought me into all of these guys' life, as well as Doc right there. My brother Andre, he's connected me to Doc, man, and it's been a great bond, right? So, Doc, please share a little bit about what you got going on.
Okay. In typical Doc style, before I even really start communicating with the public, I asked two things actually. First of all, because we came a long way or short way, I would like everybody to stand who is not my student. Give me 5 seconds. I'd like everybody to stand up for a second. It's about you guys coming out. It's not about me. All right, beautiful. Now, what I want each of you that are standing up right now to do is to put your hand on your stomach. And I'm gonna have my students come around and tap you on your shoulder if you got it right. And when you have it right, please sit down. So my students, please pick a person and check them out to see if they're correct and do as was spoken. How many people were actually correct by having their hands on their stomach? Now, there was a very large amount of people who were not aware of where their stomach was located. By the way, count the bottom rib and count 5 ribs up. That's where your stomach is located at. This is important because after water leaves your lips, goes down your esophagus, it goes into your stomach. So we need to find out where water travels at in the human body and where these organs are located so we can understand the principles and concepts of hydration. Okay? Now, I don't know how long I have to talk, but anyway. Anyway, water is called a universal solvent. And a universal solvent does what? What does a solvent do? It dissolves things. So, if water being a universal solvent and you consume it, its responsibility now is to dissolve the minerals that you have in your body so that your body can use them on a higher level. That would be considered hydration. To understand hydration, one must understand the principles and concepts of hydration from water by realizing that each organ in our body has a different pH level. But when we pH level ourselves, it comes out to be a 7 point. We know the answer, okay? Because it balances itself out within the existing organs. So then when a person is considered acidic, what actually is going on inside of the human body? In order to understand that, you have to understand nucleus hydration. Not a fancy word, but an interesting one. Nuclear hydration is the mechanism of hydration because the cells themselves are acidic. Every cell in your body is acidic on the inside, and it has an alkaline shell. That's how the cells work. So what happens when a person's body is considered acidic is what happens is they consume something that reverses the charge and cause the cells to reverse polarity, meaning that the ones that were acidic are now alkaline, and the ones that were alkaline are now acidic. And because the acid was inside of your cells, by reversing itself, you can't help but being acidic. Thus, at this point, the cells are not moving at their high rate because alkalinity is a calmer. So bring it down. So balance you down this way. So acid makes you go this way. Okay? So you now are dehydrated. You are now acidified because the mineral content of your body, which the water universal solvent dissolved, and you had too much TDS in your body through the hydration process. TDS is total dissolved salts. And you come to that total TDS by, if you take a picture of that little table over there where those little water things are, there's a centrifuge behind there. And that centrifuge is used by laboratories to put the water in it and to spin it. And they spin it, and they spin it, and they spin it. And after the spin cycle, they take it out. And they look at the bottom of it and say, what or how much salts, minerals are now in that water that you could not see prior to spinning it down. And they make a giant mathematical equation, and then they can say, this water contains this much TDS. And based on that, you have a formula or a ratio to determine specific things in the body. Now, water being half of the body weight, meaning if you're like 150 pounds, that means 75% of your body is water. So if 75% of your body is water, then, and 4% of your body is minerals, and how much percent of your body is fat, muscle? You getting the picture here? Now, what's being stored in those organs is going to determine what the water solvent is going to dissolve and utilize to do what it does. Now, water just doesn't chase these minerals around in the body, because how many people think that water is fluid? Give me a raise of hands. How many people say water is fluid? Come on, don't be scared. Okay, water is actually sticky. Yeah, water is actually sticky. That's why it's a solvent, because by it being sticky, it adheres to the minerals and begin to slowly dissolve them. And because they are sticky, they create a coat barrier during this dissolving process, so not to cause your body to get a mineral toxicity level. That's how the body works. It's kind of simple when you look at it, how water really kind of works a little bit, how your body kind of uses the water kind of bit. I got an easier one for you. How many of you guys out there think that herbal teas hydrate the body? See? They never hydrate the body. When an herbal tea works for your body, because they're not hydrating, they're nutrifying, it's saying to your body, what? If it's not hydrating and it's dehydrating, it means that your body contains some water that really isn't supposed to be there, and it's causing a sensory overload over here, which is causing the blockage over there. So let's dehydrate some of this stagnated pool, something like a dishcloth in your dishwater overnight. God knows how that smells in the morning. And that's how the body is going to go through there. However, these are just a couple of examples of how things are mechanically done throughout the body. Now, by saying that, I will also say that water, which is H2O, we have gotten so used to H2O that it's just H2O. But whatever happened to H3O? You know, something like 409, 408 wasn't good enough. So when they came up with 409 and it worked, they said 409. When you keep it there, something like water. Whenever you're dealing with chemistry, whenever you have a number in chemistry, you must realize that numbers precede themselves and they keep going down a certain sequence. You just don't have a number. H2O, there. Pretty much done. What about H3O? What about H4O? What about H5O? Which are also waters. Why don't we hear about those specific waters that are also included in specific things like celery that has a specific water in it? And then you may have a mango that has a specific water in it. Because of the mineralization of those two different things, the mineral content will determine what ratio of H2O, H3O, H4O, H5O will be found in the fruit or vegetable. That's why you have some fruit that are cooling. Vegetables are cooling. And then you have warming things. That water, when you pour it in the ground, when the rain comes down into it, and it mixes with those minerals, it causes those minerals to transmutate into the principle and quality in which that vegetable needs. Something like when you drink water, you got little people inside of you just sorting it out, and this cell gets a little bit of this one, and this cell gets a little bit of that one, and they kind of like divide everything up at a very, very fast rate. So by the time it gets to you peeing it out, it ain't the same water that you came in with. It's giving you extra minerals that they flushed out of your body. See how the body gets transmutated that pure drinking water into pee? Just like that. So if the body does that, what makes you think that everything else that God created is not under that same principle, seeing that everything has minerals in it? But I'm just overshadowing, or I'm just speaking. But it's up to you guys to realize, to find out if it's true or not. I'm just speaking. Could be pulling your leg. But then again, it'd be a shame if I'm telling the truth and you don't know where you're stomach at and think all water is wet. Thank you.
I may as well hide it.
All right, so
I applaud you at that, though. I'm not criticizing by any means.
So James, me and James met through Black Brand. We worked together basically a lot of times as he owns a store over by Military Circle Mall, where a lot of people have been going for a lot of years, going to get their distilled water and so forth. So I'm gonna let James talk to you a little bit about what he has going on and share. Please share.
Okay. Let me best tell you my history, and you all have all probably experienced this. I happened to walk into a store, and there were men walking around in lab coats. And then they had aquariums around. I mean, like 3 or 4 aquariums. Then they had these big, stainless steel machines in them. And so I basically walked in and said, "What is all this?" And the gentleman looked at me and he started explaining about water. Now, my experience has always been to go somewhere to somebody's house and drink tap water. Each house, the water tastes different. And some people like tap water, some people don't like tap water because they're only accustomed to that. But what happened with me, I walked into the store, the gentleman explained some things to me about water. It took about 20 minutes or so. And they sell water distillers, and they sell not bottled water, but machines that will make distilled water. And I was married at the time, and took the water home. After I tasted it, I take it back up. What the gentleman did was he did the puppy dog clothes on me. He said, "Here, try this water." I sipped it, and I was like, I don't taste anything. I don't have like a metallic taste. I don't have the taste of salt. It tastes fresh. And I sipped some more. And I'm like, what is it about this water that's so special? So I took it home and told my wife, I was like, look, I bought this water home. And she looked at me like, what? It's like, yeah, I bought it home. Then I tried to explain it. I said, look, just taste it, just taste it. So she did the same thing. She sipped it and she was like, she kept smacking the lips. And what we both realized is that our tap water was not fresh. And we all get accustomed to it. It's like when you go out in the country somewhere, you drink some well water, it doesn't taste like the water in the city that you just left. And that's when I really decided to become educated about water. So after we went through a gallon of water, I went back to the shop, the store that was in Coliseum Mall at the time, and I said, let me have some more of that. So he gave me another bottle. I took it home. Before I knew it, that was gone in about 2 days. So I went back and got some more water. Took it back home. Water's gone again in 2 days. And I thought, I can't keep driving to Coliseum Mall just to get a gallon of water. So I ended up buying a water distiller. And it was a manual unit. You basically pour water in the top of it. And I realized to say water tastes good is not correct. Water does not have a taste. But most of us have just never experienced it. We've experienced what the taste that we experience is from food that's on your palate, food that's stuck in your teeth, anything that is not pure, like pure water, just as the gentleman said, it kind of dilutes things, it cleanses, and we're never taught that. We're just told, as consumers, here, doesn't this taste good? We just buy into it. So at any rate, I talked to the gentleman who sold me the water distiller, and I purchased one. And I guess about 2 years later, I was told that this gentleman had opened up a water store. And I thought, okay, he's selling these distillers. And so I went to talk to him, and we basically talked about owning like a franchise in the store. And what we would do is have water distillers there. We sold water coolers as I do now. But I realized that people were going to buy water because water was not popular back in 1987. I mean, we were kind of getting accustomed to it, but most people, you say, well, when I bought a bottle of water, they look at you real strange, like, did you have water at home? Did you pay a water bill or something? So anyway, I had the water distiller, and the more I drank water from the distiller, the more I began to appreciate food being. Because most of us don't become hydrated from drinking water, because the water has so many chemicals in it. What we don't think about, and we're never told, is that everything on earth basically comes in contact with water. And water takes a couple of molecules with it, as in diluting something or rinsing and cleansing it. And we end up consuming it. I saw an article, well, it was on TV, and they were talking about the clear plastic and saying that takes over 100 years for that to break down. And that's something that's coming out now about so much plastic being in the water. Well, everything is in the water. And we don't realize it. But your body needs to get clean water, mainly to get all the other things that are bad for you out of the water. Now, you can debate whether you need minerals, what kind of minerals and all that. I'm not arguing so much about that. I'm arguing about cleansing your body and allowing your body to work better. And so I've been in business since, like I said, 1987. I'm actually across the street from Costco. Right across that, there's a shopping center there. Used to be called Dixie Square. There's a big sign up there now. And anyway, that's where I'm located. But my point is, we need to consider what's going into our bodies. And just because someone says, this tastes good, just don't buy it. Do what I've done at the time, was to drink some clean water, just like you need to eat good food. And your body, you'll be so surprised at how your body will really come to life. Because if you get a water analysis done, it costs about $150. They actually test for about 8 pages of chemicals. And that's just a small amount. I've heard that it's like 10,000 chemicals possibly that our bodies come in contact with from drinking water. But no one teaches you the mere fact that water is meant to feed your body in a sense, and water is meant to cleanse your body. So what I recommend is get you some clean water and experience the difference between what you thought was good water and clean water, refreshing water. And that's basically what I have been doing for the past 37 years, is educating people about the water. Because your body is like 80% water, and the rest is in different solids, and bone, even bones have about 20% water. But we're not taught anything like that. And so I recommend, no matter who you listen to and get educated with, understand that you need to cleanse your body and how important water is. It's just as important as air.
Thank you.
Thank you for the lead on this.
So, as y'all can pretty much tell, that not all water is created equal, right? And each one of these gentlemen possess a very unique skill and set, right? So briefly about me, I came into this business about roughly 8 years ago. And my experience was that, being an E4 at the time and living in kind of, lower economic areas, I found out that water wasn't as popular in urban America, right? So by that I mean that when you would go to your local corner stores or bodegas, you wouldn't see the Fijis or the Avions and those types of water, right? And my cousin had introduced me to a mountain spring water, which we call Family Springs at this point in time now. And I tasted it and I was like, hey, this doesn't taste like nothing I've ever had before, right? And I'm like, well, why don't we get offered the same quality of water, in our areas, in our urban, lower economic areas? So that then made me start doing a lot more research into water from that point, and it literally kind of just drove me into, going down this rabbit hole per se, right? And saying all these different types of alkaline water and natural spring water, and not all water is created equal, and how these things affect the body, but they weren't being distributed, right, into our community, which means that a lot of our health concerns, always be kind of passionate about it because it affects us mentally, physically, and spiritually, right? So what these brothers possess is a skill that will furthermore help us. And by bringing this together, me as a distributor, that's how I look at myself, right? Because, my brother Chief owns a spring, live alkaline water, very good. Has minerals, you'll always see in bottled water added minerals for taste, right? But, they play around with it. They play around with your palate, as James was just talking about, right? So when you understand what real water tastes like, that's naturally from the earth, it may taste different from the water that you actually have, that you're buying out, that they say added spring water for taste, right? Or when you listen to what Doc is telling you about the salts and how the movement of water, right, literally travels, right? Because water moves anywhere salt goes, right? So wherever it is at, it's going to move from a higher concentration to a lower concentration. So then we start understanding how we're moved, because we are water. We are largely made up of the thing that we consume, right? So the certain properties of how he talks about the stickiness of it, you'll understand that capillary action is basically how water moves up the trees, or how water moves up from your legs against gravity. And then, listening to James talk about distilled water, pure water, right, which actually has, once again, the ability to detoxify your body, right? So when we put these things together, we're looking at, making it a whole community based off of water, right? And which I call water knowledge, all right? So I'm gonna get a little bit into this, right, at this point. So Glaxo Chief, let me see, hold on, let me get into this a little bit. I don't know if y'all can actually see this though, right? But there's a senior executive, Dr. Alan Rose passed away quite some time ago, right? But a senior executive called, and I'm gonna show you these just to give you a heads up. I'm gonna show you these clips, like I said, on the research science. I could have written these down, could have copy and paste. I could have had AI write it down for me, right? I want you to use your smartphones to do smart things, right? And I tell my daughter that all the time, right? At the end of the day, we're all research scientists, so we'll get online and we'll Google and we'll find anything, but you can literally change your algorithm, change the way you think by just going on there and Googling the right things. And then what's happening, Google will start to analyze your brain and what you want to say, and then it's going to start leading you out of the so-called matrix, right? So, a senior executive, right, of Britain's biggest drug company has admitted that most prescription medicines do not work on most people who take them. Fewer than half of the patients prescribed some of the most expensive drugs actually derive any benefits from them, all right? And it's an open secret within the drug industry that most of the products are ineffective in most patients. So Dr. Alan Rose graduated from Duke University, right? And he's highly decorated and the chief executive of GlaxoSmithKline, which is look these things up. I'm telling you, GlaxoSmithKline is an 87-something or 70-something billion dollar company that basically any drugs that came in your contact pretty much probably came from them. All right. So along with this information, he also said that. Excuse me, I'm trying to read through some of this on this small device, handheld device I got. Says that the rest, future rests on being able to target drugs in smaller numbers of patients with specific genes. Okay, so all this to say, genes may load the gun, right? But your lifestyle pulls the trigger. So we all have some type of genes that have come from, our parents and so forth, right? And just based off of how they lived, what they did, and so forth and so on. But our lifestyle, how we carry out, is the thing that ends up killing us a lot of times, right? So just in speaking to that, most of the drugs are best useless and even possibly dangerous for many patients. Dr. Rosa said doctors treating patients routinely apply the trial and error approach, which says that one drug does not work, there is always another one, which is why you end up using multiple different medications for a back or whatever the case you may have. They normally give you a cocktail of drugs, and I don't make these words up, but doctors practice medicine, right? So what does the word practice mean, right? When you start to look these things up, okay? So you are your first doctor. If you misdiagnose yourself and you don't understand your own health, how can you explain it to somebody else and expect them to diagnose you and give you the proper medication? All right, so then one more slide on this one. I think I probably just removed it. Okay, so drugs for Alzheimer's disease work in fewer than 1 of 3 patients, whereas those for cancer are only effective in 1/4 of the patients. Okay, so the vast majority of drugs, more than 90%, only work in 30 or 50% of the people, Dr. Rosa said. All right, I wouldn't say that most drugs don't work. I would say that most drugs work in 30 to 50% of people. Drugs are not drugs out there on the market work, but they don't work in everybody, right? Because we're not all the same. All right, fair enough. So this is a book, Death by Medicine, written by a few medical doctors and a PhD, available on Amazon, and I think they actually have a video, a movie as well. I think it's on YouTube. So the truth about cancer, this is the Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation out in California, right? Another independent researchers, but they say Americans are currently being prescribed pharmaceuticals at a higher rate. Pharmaceutical at a higher rate than ever, according to Henry J. Kaiser Family Foundation in 2016. Where a little over 4 billion pharmaceutical drugs prescriptions filled at retail pharmacies in the United States, right? That equals to 13 prescriptions, right, in every single American household, right? So they're literally getting us hooked on drugs, right? And I know Chief can actually, Chief was sharing with me earlier what the pharmaceuticals mean, right?
Well, I want the people to look this up for themselves.
Okay.
If you look up the word pharmaceutical, in Greek, the original language, one of the original languages came in, means witchcraft. So what everybody up here is saying is right in this act. Water is sticky because of certain mineral content that has to grab a hold to the outer part of the cell to open it up to be able to self to pull out. I agree. We need clean water to detox and to cleanse. But if we look it up, I always tell people is look it up, understand what you're reading. Doctors, and I'm gonna say it publicly, doctors do not live longer than their patients. I'll say it one more time because y'all catch what I said. Most doctors that prescribe pharmaceuticals, which is witchcraft, doesn't live longer than their patients. So we got to look this stuff up, and that's what me and Brother Chris talked about earlier as we were sitting back at the table. So it's a lot of stuff that's going on right in our neighborhoods, our community, as we want to call it. They're feeding us, they're giving us, and the reason why water does not hydrate us properly, because most of us are drinking wax. We know what wax is to the cells, to the brain, to the blood system.
So once again, here we go. You can Google this, iatrogenic disease, okay? So iatrogenic disease is iatro, which means, comes from the Greek language, right? So we know a lot of our English and wording is either coming from Latin or Greek, right? When we want to look up to the root word of what these things mean, okay? So intros means doctor, all right, healer, and we talk about genetic. It means the result of. So iatrogenic means the result of death, right? From a doctor's hands. Okay? So this is not saying that all doctors are bad, right? But we're saying the system to which that we are a part of, if the information is not correct and the safety nets are not in place, it's not being recorded properly. Okay? So leading cause of death. Now, once again, I left this information up there. That's CDC. I know a lot of y'all are familiar with the CDC, so these are trusted sites, quote unquote, let's say, right? So you can see where it says number of deaths, heart disease, cancer, COVID just ran up in there, right? And then you have accidents, unintentional injuries. So what do we think of accidents, right? Think of motorcycle, car crashes, things of that nature, right? Well, you can go ahead and add that in there with medical disease and things of that nature, right? You can throw all that into that same bunch, okay? So they put everything in there together. Now we're familiar with Johns Hopkins, right? Okay, so once again, these are That's why I did the information the way I did it, so that you guys can look up the information for yourself and do your own research, right? But it says, studies suggest medical error is now third leading cause of death in the United States. All right, so analyzing medical death rate data over an 8-year period, Johns Hopkins patients safety experts have calculated that more than 250,000 deaths per year are due to medical errors in the United States. All right, the CDC way of collecting national health statistics fails to classify medical errors separately on the death certificate, okay? Incidence rates of deaths directly attribute to medical care going horribly, right? So when things go wrong. And the medical coding system was designed to maximize billing for physician services, not to collect national health statistics, right? As it's currently being used. So at this time, it was under-recognized that diagnostic errors, medical mistakes, and the absence of safety nets could result in someone's death. And because of that, the medical errors are unintentionally excluded from national health statistics, all right? Now, once again, we have to be our own doctors first and foremost, okay? Says researchers examined 4 separate studies that analyze medical death rates, data from 2000 to 2008, including one by U.S. Department of Health and Human Services Office, right? Using hospital admission rates from 2013, they exploited that based on the total of 35,416,020 hospitalizations, 251,451 deaths stemmed from a medical error. All right, so they break down the numbers in 2013, 611,105 people died of heart disease. 584,881 died of cancer, right? And then you had 149,000 died from chronic respiratory disease. Now, these are chronic conditions, right? There's really not a cure. These are basically life. Once again, I said, genetics may load the gun, but lifestyle pulls the trigger, all right, on a lot of these different types of diseases. So, but the top ranked cause of deaths reported by the CDC inform our country's research funding and public health priorities. Cancer and heart disease get a ton of attention, right? But medical errors don't appear on the list. The problem doesn't get the funding and attention that it properly deserves unless we put attention to it, right? So medical errors aren't due inherently, once again, to bad doctors, right? But the reporting of these errors should be addressed, right? Because now you start talking about the funding, right? So if you start looking at, I think it's a code 10 or whatever, but regardless, if you've been admitted and then you get that billing from the hospital, if they're hit on there that it was due to a medical error, they have to pay for that. Now, I was a House fan back in the day. I used to love House, but as long as I know medical, the hospital is not trying to pay for anything that goes wrong or right at any point in time, right? So it's going to be on somebody else, not them, right? So spending on public health has increased, right, particularly by states. So I want you to kind of understand these numbers that I'm showing, and these are roughly from the 1960s to now, okay? So this is from 1970 to 2019. You can see how much, and the healthcare is just raising this on the federal level, which is very low down towards the bottom, you can barely see it. But the state level has grown tremendously, right? So healthcare costs in the United States have increased drastically over the past several decades, right? So once again, you can see 1962 to 2028, and you can see the increase, right? And that's, the red is the projected numbers. Now, the main reason why I'm talking to you about this is because this has a direct relationship with our gut, all right, and our microbiome. This has a lot to do with everything when we start talking about leaky gut and bacteria not being properly in the gut. our farming industry has failed us tremendously. So like the doc is saying, as far as getting the minerals and having your own garden and things of that nature, it has to be properly mineralized, right? So you can see fertilization by nutrients from the world in 1961. Now, once again, I want you to keep these numbers in date, because once I go into the brain, the aspect of the brain, you're going to start to really understand where these numbers start to come from and where they brought this information from. I'm sorry, you have a question?
I think we're all following you, but because we can't see
Oh.
because I'm old, can you tell us what the headings are so we can follow really closely?
Oh, sure. Absolutely. So this information is coming from our World in Data. It's a data source, Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. All right. So this right here at the top, it says fertilizer production by nutrient type. All right. And then it talks about potassium, phosphate, and nitrogen. All right. So those are, of course, the main minerals that's in the soil and that we need and that we use as far as that we're made of. Doc, am I right around that? Okay. So fertilizer consumption 1961 to 2019, this basically shows you from 50 million to the world, which is where they want the world to be relied on synthetic fertilization, right? Synthetic. This is what they're practicing. This is what they want, right? So when you see the world population with and without synthetic nitrogen fertilizer, all right? You can see where the world population is at. You can see where the world population supported without the synthetic fertilizer is just above where the world population fed by synthetic for, and this is in 2015. All right, so you can see how the numbers are drastically catching up, and this is what makes us more dependent on their system versus our own system. So it becomes a part of dependency on the system that's at hand, right? Which ties back into the medical facility, okay? Once again, agriculture to the land, this shows based on classes, right? So you have your upper middle income at the top, then you have your higher income, your high income, and then you have your lower middle income. So during a specific, now I wasn't alive, so some of y'all were alive during this time frame where agriculture and things started, the fast food industry really started picking up, right? And I believe that was in the later 60s and the 70s, right, when things really started to change, right, and then they started to quickly produce these things, right, so we started detaching ourselves from Mother Nature, right, and anytime you get non-communicable diseases when you're not able to communicate with your relatives, right, and things of that nature, well, and these are organisms that live within our gut, our microbiome. So the world population supported by synthetic nitrogen fertilizers. Once again, these are just graphs, and you can see the drastic income uprise. So that slope, once again, in 1960, drastically goes up again. All right, so not going to get too much into eutrophian emissions, but this is another word that you can actually Google to look up, which is basically the nutrients, right? Too many nutrients in our grass. Everybody wants these green grasses and things of this nature, and we put so many chemicals into the ground. Not understand, once again, what Doc said earlier, water is sticky. So where does all that nutrients and all that stuff that you're putting, that fertilizer, all that stuff that you're putting synthetically into your ground, it's turning up in your water. And we largely blame a lot of that for that, right? Because we want these, quote unquote, the green, pretty grass, and we're enamored by the colors, right? So the over nutrition literally creates algae and so forth that it goes into our waterways. Reason why I'm speaking about that is because now you have heavy minerals and the algae starts to grow and it takes and depletes the oxygen source that's in the water, okay? So once it depletes the oxygen, it's no longer H2O at this point in time, right? So animals start to suffocate, and then those that are into cellular biology, then if there's no oxygen inside, you have oxygen within your body as well, right? So if you have no oxygen in your water, then your cells will surely die. So this is just showing basically the breakdown between beef, fish, prawns, and how eutrophiant actually works on everything that we actually consume, right? Which literally causes bad health, and that they try to get us away from. So with that being said, you have these triggers. All right, I said about leaky gut. So leaky gut, entry of toxins, pathogens, and undigested food particles into your bloodstream. All right, so this is what's going to cause autoimmune disease, different types of food allergies, because we're not consuming, and this is, I'm going to briefly kind of go into this real quick, but there's a perfect time to drink water, right? And it's not while we're doing our meals, and not while we're eating. So a lot of us, and even me, even to this day, and I'm always with my daughter with this, we're supposed to drink water just like it's your hello, it's your introduction, okay? It is when somebody comes to your house, you offer them a glass of water, right? When you go out to eat, the first thing that they offer and bring out to you is water, right? So when we actually introduce water, it is waking up and is properly preparing for digestion, right? You have cephalic, basically when your mouth starts to, saliva starts generating, right? When you're hungry and so forth, right? It's first part of digestion, beginning to start. Then you actually have some water, right? That water literally goes and consumes, like Doc was telling you, and goes into your stomach, which then swells up underneath into your lumen, and it helps to produce what's called stomach acid, right? Which I'll get to later, right? But it produces stomach acid, that hydrochloric acid, right? That we need to break down our food. Well, that acid is antimicrobial, right? Because we know what stomach acid is, has a pH of about 2, right? So if we're plain chemistry, if we have acid and we use water or a base, we're literally neutralizing the effects of what it's supposed to properly be doing. And in that process, we're creating leaky gut, okay? Because those tight junctions within are loosening up and it's giving us food allergies, it's giving us autoimmune diseases, it's literally creating a lot of the diseases based on the proper times that we actually drink water. And a lot of times you can actually blame on the temperature of water matters, because if you ever drunk a whole lot of cold water and it's slushing around in your stomach and it hasn't been absorbed yet, right? It means that it's still sitting in your gut, right? So water plays a major, major role in the digestion, right, of everything. And I break this down in 3 different levels, right? Our first brain is our skin, which is our largest organism, right? It's our membrane, right? Our second one is our gut, right? Which is breaking down the information, right? And then we process it with the third brain, all right? So in order to bypass a lot of this, it's directly because we gather around food, we love food, right? And water and things of that nature. So in order to break past your barrier, the outside barrier, and to get to your processing, we're going to do it through food, and it literally breaks down everything else from there. Sorry, anything you gentlemen want to add into? So no man can enter into a strong man's house and spoil his goods, except he will first bind the strong man and then spoil his house, right? So that's what I'm just saying, and that's Mark 3:27, okay? So let's see what I'm talking about that. Can drugs cross the brain's blood barrier? This is your brain-blood barrier, okay? And unfortunately, this barrier is so effective, right? So this brain is literally prevents drugs and other chemicals and things from passing into your brain, right? Free, without admission, right? So it literally has a tight junction, just like we was just talking about the gut. It's a tight junction to protect your brain, right? Because your brain has first priority over water, right? To maintain health, right? So unfortunately, this barrier is so effective at protecting against the passage of foreign substances that it often prevents life-saving drugs from being able to repair the injured or diseased brain. New studies are guiding researchers toward creative ways to open this barrier and quote unquote trick it into allowing medicines to enter. Every thought you have and action you take requires precise communication between the nerve cells in your brain for these messages to be successfully transmitted and received. The surrounding environment needs to be stable, right? So the environment dictates the nature of the cell, okay? In 1960, all right, remember I told you that date is going to be real critical for everything, right? So it took until the 1960s before scientists were able to catch a glimpse of the actual barrier standing between the rest of the body and the brain. So what they did was they took German scientists, they injected a colored dye into the blood, and then they found out that it stopped at a certain point in the head, and it wouldn't go any further. And they couldn't figure out until later. There was another scientist that actually injected it into the brain and then found out it wouldn't go any further below into the body, right? And they did this with rats, and then basically they found out, okay, there's a barrier between the head, the brain, and the body, okay? So scientists learned that the brain's blood vessels are lined with endothelial cells, all right? And these serve as interference between circulating blood and vessel walls, right? So you have endothelial cells around every part of your body, right? This is, basically the passes and transportation between, the cells and intracellular and the extracellular fluid, okay? So endothelial cells in the brain are tightly wedged together, creating a nearly impermeable boundary between the brain and the bloodstream. The blood-brain barrier helps block harmful substances such as toxins and bacteria from entering the brain. But scientists knew that the brain also depends upon the delivery of hormones and key nutrients, right, including glucose and several amino acids from the organs of the body, all right? Scientists inject chemicals into the bloodstream of animals and later measure the amount that arrived in the brain. Scientists have found that compounds that are very small and fat soluble, including the antidepressants and anti-anxiety medications, alcohol, cocaine, and many hormones, are able to slip through the endothelial cells that make up the blood-brain barrier without much effort. Transporter proteins located in the brain's blood vessel walls selectively snag and pull the desired molecules from the blood into the brain. That's what Doc was telling you earlier, right? Because our cells aren't moving, so it needs to transport from water to provide everything that it needs, right? And then these cells will grab what it needs out of it. So in order to rebuild a house, to rebuild a cell, you can't have just, you can't rebuild your house with just a glue gun and some nails and some shingles, right? You're gonna need some drywall, you're gonna need all the tools, the raw materials in order to build a house, right? And this is where, where Doc and Chief were actually telling you about the minerals that's in this water and that the salts and things of that nature. You need a combination of things in order to rebuild your house, okay? So here we go. Here's how the drugs are designed to cross the barrier. One, the brain blood vessels are lined up with endothelial cells, right? A key component of the barrier that restricts which molecules enter the brain. Transferrin is a natural occurring protein that carries iron into the brain by binding to transferrin receptors, right? Remember, bind, and then it's going to actually get into and break your body down, right? So this is where that comes from, all right? And they actually have molecule drugs that use transported vehicles like antibodies in order. So at the same time, these things can help the body. We have to understand how they are helping it, right? And it's going to leave living diseases back to water. And an estimated 98% of potential drug treatments for the brain disorders are unable to penetrate the brain's blood barrier, right? So barrier crossing, how do we figure out how to do this? Administering a solution that sucks water out of the surrounding tissue of an artery leading to the brain. This solution draws water out of the brain's endothelial cells causing them to shrivel up, which creates gaps through which medications can temporarily pass before it swells up. So dehydration literally create gaps within your brain that will allow things. And now, this is not me making this up, right? This is coming from research and scientists that have said this. And it's literally breaking up. So just based on dehydration, we're literally weakening our systems through our gut and through our brain, which are tightly connected, okay? And is used successfully delivering chemotherapy drugs to some patients with brain tumors, okay? So with that said, I'm gonna take any questions. This is basically a breakdown of, you know, it's got some colors in it. But do you guys have anything to add to any of this?
Well, one of the things, listening to you about the dehydration, one of the main minerals that they use, and if we go back and we study and research, is what? Magnesium.
Mm-hmm.
With the word magnesium, you got the word magnet, and it pulls any other element. No other element can get in without it. And they figured it out, how to get to you. That's why every time we say, well, put on this, or copper, or put this on, put that on, it draws in certain energies. And that's what magnesium, the mineral magnesium does. And if they're giving us the wrong stuff, it's helping to get in. So we understand that, and that's why, as water bearers, you know, we have to get this information out to the people so they can understand. If you look at most patients, heart patients, what's the first thing they give you? Magnesium, because you can't be healed without it. You can't get around it. You can't get over, you can't get up under it. But you can get through it. But you have to have that magnesium.
Right. Magnesium holds water.
There you go.
And yeah, you know, through like Celtic salt, which is a very strong component of magnesium. That's the different types of magnesium in it. But what that does is literally holds the water and pulls the water inside the cell.
SO2.
Huh?
SO2.
So
Most people don't even know what SO2 is. It deals with the white blood cells.
okay.
The white blood cells, most people think it's just, it's for it's just, calcium is just for, you know, the bones and the teeth and et cetera, et cetera. No, it actually is for your white blood cells. That's why you need magnesium first, calcium, and zinc to work in conjunction together. We call it the three sisters.
Chief, keep going. I like the way you talk. I like the way you talk. Keep going.
Yes, sir.
Is it?
Not to pit anyone against each other, but there is spring water. People typically drink tap water, spring water, or mineral water, distilled water, and reverse osmosis, which is a type of filtration. Depending on who you talk to, this is still being debated a lot. I sell distilled water, and I also sell alkaline water. And reverse osmosis will also give you a high grade of water, depending on how it's set up. A lot of people feel that, and they're told that they don't really need to drink water. They can drink sodas, they can drink milk, they can drink beer, they can drink alcohol, and just because it's a liquid, you're saying it's water. Well, let me read something about your body. Your brain is 80% water. So if you put it in bad water and you're drinking beer and wine and stuff, understand that's part of why you get drunk, is you're drinking an inferior type of water. Blood is 90% water. Muscle is 76% water. Body fat, which most people don't think there is water, there's fat, that's 10% water. Bones, 20% water, and your organs in general, 70 to 80% water. If you're not drinking enough water, everything in your body is suffering. And the amount of water, it varies depending on who you're talking to. But basically, you take your body weight and you should be converted to ounces instead of pounds to ounces, and you should drink half of that. So if you weigh 200 pounds, you should be drinking roughly 100 ounces of water. And that may sound like a lot, but if you start off slowly, whatever you're drinking now, stop drinking so many other things and drink more water. You may not get up to that 100 ounces or not, but you need to get as close as you can to that because you need to rehydrate your body. Because your body is really suffering. Putting soda and beer and wine in your body in place of water, even milk and whatever, that's not a good idea.
So which one is,
Which one is what?
I think the question was, what type of water?
You might start fighting.
So I'm gonna allow them, but not all water is created equal. Your body is a filter of anything that you put into it, right? So it's not necessarily, distilled water has a place, especially when you're detoxifying your body and pulling minerals and so forth and extracting. So you have to learn how water moves. And I'm gonna get into that a little bit later into the slides because then there's salts and so forth to add into the cellular motion, right? So as we sweat and we perspire, right, that salt then ends up on the outside and then evaporates, and now we have salt on the outside. Well, now we have a different type of thirst mechanism that has just checked in, right? Because your body has two different types of thirst. So depending on your thirst, I literally tell you what type of water that you're actually going to need. So it's not necessarily about which water is better because God created all of it at the end of the day. And once we just know how to utilize it and when to utilize it the best times, then it all will serve us.
Okay, I'm gonna step in just for this a hair second. So you might check, just in case somebody says I'm not talking big enough. Now, I can scream a little bit and stuff like that. Any from my laws, when the question to the young lady, she was asking about the difference in those waters. To the best of my recollection, and I'm not very intelligent, trust me, okay? Distilled water is water that is created, and when it's created in a cloud base, it has a high electron ability, separation. There's high electrons in there. So when you take distilled water and make it, it's full of electrons. It's really hot. And you have to let it mature before you drink it. Because if you do not mature distilled water because of the electron cloud in which it was created from, guess what's going to happen? It's going to eat your bones up like cancer. That's distilled water if it is not mature. My friends, choose to call him my friend, whether you're my friend or not. You're my friend, right?
Yes, sir.
So my name is Chief here with the springs. Now the difference in spring water is this, and I'm always going to tell the truth, okay? Spring water is very good water. I was brought up on nothing but pure well water. In the summertime when it's like 105 outside, you go to that well, spin it, pump it, it's cold, sweet tasting. Okay, it's cold and sweet tasting. Now, spring water or well water or spring water has on the same principle as a well. It comes from beneath. Now, spring water, because it comes from beneath, it's living water. It contains the essential necessary bacteriums in which the gut system really needs. It has it. So when it comes up out of that spring, you reach your hand down there, you put it in your mouth, oh my God, it's beautiful because it's now mineral rich. And not to mention the algae that are growing in the rocks down there releases specific oxygens to enhance that ability of that water to do what it needs to do as a solvent as well. And a mineralizer, because it is now a solvent and a mineralizer. So as it dissolves the minerals that your body consists of, guess what? It replaces it with the ones that are already on an atomic structure for your body to be used. Okay? Now, alkaline water. Okay, we'll talk about alkaline water. Alkaline water is water that has a specific pH in it that's a little bit higher than your body's pH. And it's something like having a strip show. Da-da-da-da-da. Da-da-da-da-da. The person stands up, opens up their coat, all of the toxins come out because that's what the alkalinity water is going to do to it. And then the person closes up, da-da-da-da-da. Then they open up again. So you take another swallow. And it goes out, closes back up. Okay? And when it does that, it's pushing all of the acidic parts out of your body and the waste part out of your body so that your body can maintain a specific pH because it's over acidic. And it's causing your cells to try to rebalance themselves. But they're only going to try to rebalance themselves as long as you're drinking the alkaline water. The question I think we really should be asking ourselves is, one, why are we as a people so sick with disease? Why are we so caught up on the things in the world that causes the disease to occur? But for some reason, we think that we can do it behind closed doors in the secrecy of our own home and drink purified water when we walk around in the street and think that nobody's going to find out that you're fake. You're going to find out you're fake because if you're doing the things you're supposed to be doing, you're not going to be unhealthy. And to prove a point about it, it's like, has anybody ever been sitting in the bed and they needed a drink of water, and 5 minutes later, you still need a drink? 10 minutes later, you still need a drink? You know why? Because whenever you need something, that's called negative thinking. But we don't ever look at that because, you got a needy girl or a needy guy. That's negative. But you need some water, and you're not getting it, which is also negative. So the reason we have these problems in life is because no one wants to want better. You see how it sounds? When I want water, I get up and get it right now because my body's saying, now, nigga, now. Right? So I want to obey the laws that are governing my body so that I can still do backflips with my niece. And my son, my brother's little daughter, I still want to be able to backflip with them, run with them, do the things that are necessary. But in order to do that, you have to do your body right. So this man has a lot of information about the sickness and the this and the that and all these kind of diseases and all these kind of pills and stuff like that. But what's your contribution part to all of this? What do you add to the situation? A lot of people die of lack of knowledge. But we want somebody to constantly tell us something so that we can regurgitate it to give the illusion that we actually know something. Application is true wisdom. And when you really want the truth, and I'm going to prove that before I leave here, I'm going to prove how many people want real health, real understanding, and real knowledge. And I bet you, I'm looking at the audience right now, I bet you there's only going to be 2 of you in the whole audience that subscribe to what I have to say. Everybody else is going to only need to hear what one wants to listen to and not want to truly apply. I hope I answered that question halfway right without wanting to attempt to answer. Thank you.
I want to say, with that being said, and Brother Chris knows that I got a saying, eat right, drink right, you'll begin to think right as a people, and you'll begin to do right as a people. Most of the springs, unbeknown to people, are acidic. Most people don't know that. It's either 6.5 to a 6.9, it's very, or to a 7. It's very rare that you find an alkaline spring that's a 7 and up, 7.1 and up. Very rare. I know because I've been doing this for about 30 years now. So I know for a fact, and thank the Most High, we got one. That's 7.5, 7.3 to a 7.5. Naturally alkaline, naturally mineralized, that we utilize to give back to the people so they can have good health.
if you don't know what your stomach and hydration is really just too big a word for you, because we're talking about hydrogen, and if you don't know what parts of your body are located and how they operate, then what type of bottled water, who has the best bottled water is irrelevant. So I really think you should be tapping into all three of these brothers to find out where your stomach is and why water would even be important and what hydration even means.
Okay, so, just to clarify on a lot of things with the alkaline, there's alkaline water and there's alkalinized water. So just to break this down a little bit, just for easier consumption. Alkaline water is coming from earth, alkaline earth metals. So when you look at your periodic table, right, you'll see sodium and then you'll see chloride, right? So one's a metal, one's a gas. You combine the gas with a metal, you get a salt. Okay, so this is proper chemistry. So those things that are added, right, and making alkalinized water is coming from the splitting of molecules, okay? So those splitting of molecules, when you split water molecules, then they're chemically making hydrogenized water, all right? And that's when you have an OH and an H, right? So if all together you have H2O, you have two hydrogen, and you have an oxygen. But when you go to electrolysis, which is those machine waters, right, you're literally splitting those molecules and you're getting H, which is hydrogen, which is acidic, and then you're getting OH, okay, and which is the alkalinity part. Well, the problem is those waters do not have minerals that it takes to resist the pH, right, the change in pH. And that's what you're looking for with alkaline water, right? You're looking for it to resist the change of acidity, right? Because like Doc was speaking about earlier, your body literally starts disassociating water molecules, right? It starts to break those water molecules apart into different types of gases and hydrogens, right? Have hydrogen ions, and those electrons literally move through your body, which gives you, like anybody knows about electricity, when the electrons move through a certain path, that's what creates electricity, right? So these electrons start to move and it energizes and vitalizes. Basically, as you can see, or if you can see right there on that chart, is the inner mitochondria of the cell. Okay, so that literally shows on a microscopic level of what happens when you actually start to either consume food or water. It's broken down and it produces what's called ATP, which is energy. That energy within inside that cell is what actually rejuvenates and heals the body and creates the cellular ability to energize and heal yourself. Now, if your water is dead and it has no minerals and things of that nature, when it goes through, I'm gonna have to actually break that down in another slide though, but it creates what's called an acidic, through cellular respiration, it's going to create either acidity, acid ash within that cell, which is going to toxify it and makes the Doc was talking about earlier, and Chief was as well, which makes the reaction either really fast or really slow. And then if anybody understands about gardening and so forth, you have two different types of soils, right? So the soil, the plant soil, is either going to be acidic or it's going to be alkaline in order to grow your plants. So based on the type of soil that you have, either the speed and uptake would be too fast, because if your soil is too acidic, right, and we're talking about in your gut, so it basically would be the same in your gut. The uptake of minerals would be too fast and it will burn, basically, like, so if you burn the roots of the plant, so they say, right? So it's the same inside your body, right? If your body is too acidic, it'll literally burn the nutrients and you won't get the nutrients that you're supposed to need. If it's too alkaline, the speed and uptake will be way too slow, right? So it has to have a proper balance, and this is why we're saying about having the proper minerals. Either you're gonna have too much or you're not gonna have enough. So not having enough is just as bad as having too much, all right? When you break it down, okay? I'm gonna take a small little quick break and, kind of go to the bathroom and you guys can show what you guys have on the table.
Yes, sir.
All right.
Next about 5 minutes.
Okay, so let's talk about how we are water, all right? I know it's a term that's often quite used. We are water people, right? As you can see, water is our connection to everything, right? It literally sticks our DNA together. Remember, once again, you're not going to hear that enough. Water is sticky. It holds our DNA together, all right? It bonds us to one another, our relationship to one another. And it also connects us to the world, right? So we can look at water from one or two perspectives. It can be something that either brings us together or separates us, right? One or two ways that you can actually look at water, and based on commerce or spiritually, it's something that we want to use to unify us as one, right? Because all animals meet in the watering hole at the end of the day, right? So functions of the water, you've heard many of these things today: hydrates brain cells, lubricates skin, eliminates toxins. I mean, many oxygenates the blood and lungs. So water has so many different properties. You can Google, but I'm pretty sure many of you guys know a lot of these things differently already, right? So we spoke to many of these things up here. You can see with water and the DNA structure and how much percentage of all of the things that our body, the organs, hold water within them, right? So we're going to talk a little bit about the movement of it, right? But before we get there, this is one part of the movement that we don't really realize, is that our perception of thirst decreases over time, right? So as we look at our newborn babies, right, and they're able to fall and things of that nature, right, they're able to bounce back so fast because of the amount of water that they have in them, right? But over time, we start to lose our perception of thirst, okay? And because of that is literally creating a balance towards we get to either acidifying ourselves, right, and going closer to death, right? This is why you always hear those fountain of youth, right? The fountain of youth is literally water, right? The more water that we have and we take, the fluidity of our body continues to keep it maintained, and we have those things to hold on to, right? So over time, you can literally see females, women, y'all actually have a little less water held in your body based on the fat, adipose fat tissue that you actually have, okay? But over time, water decreases. So, and God said, let there be a firmament in the midst of the waters, and let it divide the waters from the waters, okay? And God made a firmament and divided the waters from which above the firmament, and it was so. So I look at this in a couple of different ways, right? When we talked about water earlier, we talked about the water in the brain and the water in the body. It's literally a separate, right? Separate two types of water, where your body has two different types of oceans within it, right? You have fresh water, right, which is inside the cell, and you have salt water, right, which is on the outside the cell. So the Lord split the waters, right, and He literally separated. So this is just bringing the spirituality part into what it is that we're doing and what it is that we're talking about. All right. This is just a little picture that actually shows you a little bit. Once again, you talk about Alzheimer's disease and things of that nature, right? We're talking about the less water that is in the brain, right? Because once again, water holds memory. It has a memory potential. Based on the cluster of molecules and how they actually form and unite together, it retains information, right? But once we get to that perception of thirst decreasing over time, it literally leads to the brittle bones that we find with our elderly, the memory loss, and then we tie that into the gut, right? And the dehydration factor. You see how all these things start to collectively build up against us in time, right? So making sure that we hydrate ourselves is critical to the way how we perceive life, right? It's just even in, earlier where you can actually see your eyes are literally 90% water. So your perception of light can actually be changed based on how you view, how you see things, okay? So this is basically, once again, showing you all Earth's water, right? And, you know, you got that small little dot, which is locked up within inside the Earth, which is fresh water, right? You know, it's just water in the aquifers and things of that nature, right? So, and breaking that down, and just briefly to touch on it, they literally found another whole entire ocean beneath the ocean that we're in, right? So it's literally locked up in rocks. So once again, these special mineral rocks have water locked inside of them, right? So they said if they release it, it'll, you know, multiply the amount of oceans that we actually have. So, you know, we're not out of water by any means to stretch the imagination, right? So, and this is just showing you distribution. So tapping in with James here, right? Because distribution of water, and Chief talks about this too as well, because he's one of the first people to actually get his water into Walmart, right? So in talking about the movement of water, it is very extremely costly to move water because water weight and it makes it so heavy, right? So talking with James, me and him, we work together to actually get and order supplies that come from California, from the water business, and actually get bottles and we get pumps and things of that nature, right? We try to put our resources together in order, because the shipping, the movement of water is very costly, right? You have to get pallets and things of that nature moved. Chief, would you actually care to speak on some of the distributions that you actually go through with water, dealing with water?
Yeah, some of the things I go through with the distribution of water. Well, let me say this: how I had to end up doing it when I first started out is figure out a way, a cheap way, to be able to get the water from point A to point B. My first order, what I ever got was 2,000 gallons. And I got the order, got the money, but I had to figure out how to get the water to Detroit, Michigan. Well, I learned something. And I learned a valuable lesson is that I went through all these shipping companies, the prices was high, sky high. I was like, man, I'm in trouble because now I done accepted his finances. And I done used some of it to bottle water. What I end up doing is a company called Penske truck. I ended up renting a truck for $250 for 4 days. And in the 4 days, I maximized it, meaning that it was unlimited mileage. Can you hear me? Okay, I ended up renting a Penske truck for 4 days. At that time, I think it was around $250 to $270. Unlimited mileage. They done changed since, you know, I've been dealing with it. And that's how I ended up started distributing water, but I found an easier way to do it. Started getting young brothers to start becoming distributors and in different areas. So when they became distributors in different areas, it kind of made my job a little bit easier because I put them on how to move the water, how to do it. That's how I started doing it. They moved the water. I got about 30 distributors with approximately maybe 8 to 10 different companies. When I say companies, Rainbow Water, Zero Water, McCrae Springs, the Monty Waters, you know, it's just different, Live Like Line 708, et cetera, and doing it like that, I found it easy to be able to move that water around because you got people that's hungry that want to do this, and even dealing with companies, big companies, they do what they call drop shipping.
Right.
They come pick it up. As long as we have everything ready and everything right, they pick it up. So it made it easier for me to be able to get this water across the globe, even sending water over to Africa. I found it's a way to make it a little bit easier. So we're working on a couple of things now as far as distributorship, distribution, people owning their own brands. I think that's one of the most powerful ways to do it, is to allow people to own their own brands, but yet powered by Live Like Line Water, which is the source. So that way, if something ever happens, they can always come back to the source and say, this is the problem we have, and et cetera, et cetera. So that was the way I did it. That was the way I was able to get the water distributed all throughout the United States. Right now, we're in about 18 different states and 2 different places over in Africa. And steady growing. Hopefully, Arizona, we get distributed Texas and California. We've been shipping water out there, but we're gonna make it easier by putting warehouses up and taking it in bulk and having it instead of 2,000 gallons. What about taking a whole truck, 18-wheeler, 53-footer, and we'll have it there. So that's how we made it easy, and then we own everything. Don't ever let nobody fool y'all. Own everything. If you own it, it's yours. You ain't got to heed to nobody else but you. Thank you.
About you, Josh? Yeah. Now, do you have distribution, right, with your What is it Life?
Right, Waters of Life we distribute. Oh, that's right. That's right. We got to share the mic, Tim. Right. Okay, basically, ICW or Biogeogenetics, we are a private membership organization, meaning that we choose the people that we want to give our water to. Because I don't want everybody walking around with Gucci on. Okay? I don't want everybody walking around with whatever other kind of brand they want. So see, that's what they're gonna do it to you. Right? I don't need that. I'm into educating. All of the products, and I have 240 products. One of them even made the news called LIMS, the fastest pain relief formula in the world. Gets rid of pain in 40 seconds. So that's where my money is at, into doing things of that nature right there. Things that allow you to breathe better in 40 seconds. That's what I do. Things that make you have a better life right now. That's what I do. However, Waters of Life is part of our product line, and we own it. And we have few people who carry it. There are people in our region who are members, and we allow them to carry that specific water for their clientele. And that's how we do Waters of Life. Everything else is about educating for us. And after educating, we introduce you to a product that you may or may not like. But first and foremost, I need to know where your stomach is at before I try to sell you and get you whipped into some water. Okay? I like to keep it very simple. Because if I keep it simple, people comprehend it better. If I get complex, it seems like I'm a big head. And I'm not really a big head, and I'm not really a complex person. But Waters of Life is available. For our members, we have a website for those who would like to become the $10 members. The $10 members allows you to go and look at the things that we have on our website. And if you think it is beneficial for you, then by all means order it. You're not going to see us on Twitter, TikTok, Facebook. You're not going to see us not, because we're not like, it's not like that. But I'm giving you a personal invitation to go out. It's the Institute of Cellular Wellness. 1S, so you don't get us confused with the other snakes out here. .com. Or you can pick up one of our books over there and see if you're even ready to sit down and talk to us face to face. And if you get through that book, then you're ready for the master book. And that's when you really learn about things. And you become a distributor of true health through your appearance, through your actions, and through your new way of thinking. Thank you.
And James, you have water that you do at your store, at your shop. You let everybody know a little bit about how you do your water. Come in and get your water, but how you offer it.
Okay, we sell bottles from half liter up to 5 gallon bottles. 3 gallon bottles, 2 gallon bottles. So you can buy a bottle and you own the bottle. You get to fill it 2 times free. And when you come back in, you just refill the bottle. If you come in and you have your own bottles initially, same thing. You just bring them in and just fill them. I tried delivery, but as a small business, what happens when you fire somebody or they quit? You have to get up 7 o'clock in the morning and work until 10 that night. After about 6 months of that, I was like, no, I can't do this. And so it's self-service. anyone who can or don't want to carry their bottles in their car or their truck, we'll take it out and put it in your truck. So we don't discriminate based on strength. We just don't give a man or woman. If you want us to take it out, I'll take it out. I don't care.
That's a fact.
Because every step I take, I'll be like, I got a little more money. They got better health. So it's a win-win situation. And something I want to clarify, I advocate, I'm taking drinking clean water and eating food from a different perspective, not because one is better than the other, but that is a choice. Drink good water, because you all can't see this that well, but we drink 8 glasses of water a day. In 2 years, you consume 365 gallons of water. This is what comes out of City of Norfolk tap water. And this is some of the best water in the country. So my point is, drink good water and eat good food. You have to eat good food. You can't be drinking good water and still eating fried food and all kinds of things. You have to do both. Clean your water. If you're somewhere where you don't want water delivered, or you don't want to go get it, and buy a water distiller or something, or even buy filtration. You want to drink clean water, and you want to eat good food to replace minerals that the water has taken out. That you can't really separate. You have to take all of it out, because you don't know what's good and what's bad. But by distillation, you take all the bad stuff out, that water left, eat good food to put back in and make that a better choice for you, drinking good water and eating good food. And I guess that's about it. Come see me. I'm across the street from Costco. What can I say?
And I literally go into West Virginia and I pick up our water fresh a few times a month. So a big reason why I do that is to negate a lot of the things that people have actually issues with, right? So we talk about energized water, right? So when we start looking at a food chain, right? Many of us learn in 3rd and 4th grade, this energy levels. The further you move away from that food chain, the less energy that food will actually give you, right? So the closer you are to the source, right? Because we know where energy comes from. It comes from sunlight and water, right? Then we actually get that energy, once again, that goes into our cell that actually helps to rejuvenate the cell, all right? So the freshest I can get, I go there, and then I come back. I also go to North Carolina time to time, and I go there and supply our customers with that water as well. So as a distributor in running, did the Penske trucks, and I was a big component of that. And the thing is, with you're moving water and you're in the water business, you start to see a lot of things happen before they actually happen. So while at the same time Amazon was revving up, they was actually putting a lot of small businesses out of business, basically, because they were buying all those box trucks and using them to mold. So basically, when they were shifting into the mode where they're at now, the price for Penske trucks actually went up, and then it was hard for us to actually get those trucks. So which led me to getting a trailer and trying to find other options in order to actually get our water, right? But it literally put us behind Amazon, and it shook everything up actually at that point in time, right? So I actually say, control, you want to only control your distribution. You don't want to be dictated to at the end of the day. That's what a lot of us are actually in the business for, to basically be able to dictate the resources to our own people, right? Because, if we're relying on the market to do so, then we're going to pay the market price. And a lot of times it's not a fair share price. Okay, so one more time. 2 bodies of oceans, right? So he has let loose the 2 seas converging together with a barrier between them. They do not break through. So this is the Pacific and the Atlantic Ocean. As you can see, based on the density and the level of salt, they don't run. Well, of course, underneath And the movement of water, you can actually start to see how they do kind of merge together, but on the top, that's what it looks like, just like that, right? So let's understand that our body, I said before, has two oceans, right? When you break down the compartments of the body, you start to understand the water movement. So we just talked about how we move our water, right? But your body needs water to move within it. So Chief talked, and Doc talked about the movement of water, right? And we don't see this as well, right? So try to make sure I didn't leave anything out. That's good. So only two places, right? You have the cell membranes that separate the intracellular and the interstitial fluid. So the intracellular is the water that's inside, all right? Now, you have a certain amount of charge that is inside the cell that you must. It's a potential resting, which I'm sure Doc can actually really speak to that as well, though, too, right? Because that is one of those things that's going to actually help move water inside and outside the body, right? Because it has to be an exchange, okay? Did you want to speak on that, Doc?
Yeah, remember when I first started off, I was saying how, remember in the first introduction, I was talking about nucleus hydration. That's what he's talking about right there, because the internal function of the cell, or the internal part of the cell, is acidic, and the external part of it is alkalinity. Just like the picture he showed you how things are separated right there. But when our systems are acidic, the cells reverse polarity, and the inside of our cells become alkaline, and then the external part of our cells become acidic. Now, because that alkalinity doesn't really move, that's when you begin to see edema and swelling in women and in men, because the alkalinity of the cell exchange is so prominent that there is actually no movement, no rhythmic movement between the cells to exchange, to get rid of that waste on any kind of level. So next thing you know, you have edema, right? Or you have what is called a disease called elephantitis, which is the swelling of the legs and different things right here. Now, in our research, dealing with the cells, we have actually worked with a person that had elephantitis. And the work that we did on her by helping correcting the cells actually caused her elephantitis to subside to the point that her husband actually looked at her with those kind of eyes again. Okay, that made her feel good as a woman because she knew how she was feeling with those legs feeling like that. So cellular exchange is very important. Nucleus hydration is what we really want to deal with, which is dealing with the cells. Because water on a duct is just a wet duct, right? No absorption. So we want the exchange of our water and our body ratio to come to the point where it is beneficial, symbiotic in nature, to cause that homeostasis within us to be harmonious, as opposed to being detrimental to us. And that's what he was talking about with the cells. Internal being acidic, external being alkalinity. When they switch around, and that's where those other symptoms begin to occur, right? That's as simple as I can actually put it at, but you guys get the point. You're a very intelligent audience. Thank you.
Good. So on this slide behind us, the extracellular fluid, was talking, it's 20% of the body weight, right? Has your water, your proteins, your electrolytes. We all know what electrolytes are, the minerals that's going to give you that charge, right? And it's based on the sodium chloride and the bicarbonate that's found in there, right? Overall possesses a positive charge. And then we got the intracellular fluid. So the intracellular fluid is based on about 40% of your body weight. And the water dissolved electrolytes and proteins. We don't have your phosphate, your magnesium, and your potassium. So as a runner, usually when I run, I don't drink water normally throughout my run. So I'll run a half marathon with no water. I make sure I get on my proper hydration the night before.
right, before I actually go. So people that walk around with water bottles and have it pass it, baby bottles, it's really a bit extreme. And I'm in the water business. I want you to drink and come back to me as much as possible, right? But to walk around with water bottles is really on the extreme, but it's a narrative that they're pushing onto you, right? That we have to have this constant pacifier, basically, in a sense, when your body is made, when you're hydrating it properly, to actually hold and retain that water, right? So I'm saying this because normally after, I'm speaking for myself, when I'm finished racing, usually if you run 5Ks or anything, they're going to offer you bananas and sweets and things of that nature, right? That basically kind of quench your thirst in that capacity, which I'm going to talk about a little bit later, right? Because you have two different types of thirst, hypovolemic thirst and osmotic thirst. So you want to make sure that you're quenching the right type of thirst that you have, right? So, you might remember this guy? Osmosis Jones, right? So in the body, the water moves through semi-permeable membranes of cells, and from one compartment to another, right? I'm saying, right? Osmosis is basically the diffusion of water and range from higher concentration from regions to a lower concentration. So it's like too many people on the subway, too many people in the club, and too many people in any particular space, you're going to move to, I told you, with water. So we have a lot of the same properties and characteristics as water does, okay? So this is literally showing you the extracellular fluid and the cytoplasm, which is the intracellular, and the movement of water across what's called a phospholipid bilayer, which I'm going to get into a little bit. All right. So in the spirit, God moved across the face of the waters, right? It's energy. It's literally energy that we're talking about, right? When we're talking about God moving through the waters. So we know He's everywhere, right? Energy is everywhere. God is everywhere. He's forever present, man. So we can see how water literally moves throughout the entire environment. It goes up, it goes across, it goes down, it goes left, it goes right, it goes everywhere, right? So just understand the button. I don't know if it's loud enough to catch it. So I'm going to explain it because you probably didn't hear it. But as you're going, there you go.
Put the mic on.
The water is teeming with molecules that are traveling around at super high speeds. While this type of energy might not seem as important, it can have major effects on the system. That's because changes in internal energy can result in changes in temperature, changes in phase, like a fluid or gas, or changes in chemical structure. All these types of energy, kinetic, potential, and internal, show us what can exist within a system. But these types of energy can't cross-parameter from their system to the surrounding us. But we've already talked about the main types of energy that can cross. One is heat, which we know through the flow of thermal energy, and another is work, which is essentially any type of energy other than heat.
Okay, so what she was basically explaining is the physics of water, right? So water possesses internal potential energy, right? So molecules move at a very fast pace, so fast to the point that you cannot see it with your eyes, right? So even as the water sits on a table and it does not look and appear to be moving, it's constantly moving, right? Those hydrogen, those atoms, they're constantly moving, they're constantly vibrating, right? So this is how we know that anything in motion continues to move, right? So physics is the science that deals with the structure of matter and the interaction between the fundamental constituents of the observable universe. Physics is concerned with all the aspects of nature on both a macro and a sub-microscopic level, all right? And this is one of the principles of water, man, which help, gives you the ability to understand that you need moving water, living water. There's a lot of churches that you probably in places you go to that you'll see living water on there, right? So you understand what it means by living water. So water potential, all right? I'm gonna briefly kind of go through this, but the pi sign, you might see, what's the water, quote unquote, god that has the
Neptune.
Neptune, there you go, Neptune. And his choice of weapon is the pi sign, right? So this means water potential. And you can literally predict the way the water will move
based on what it has. So either you can switch it, see the quite quick formulas of water that actually go into it, right? So either you're going to be able to push or pull it, or you're going to be able to use solutes, right? The solutes is going to actually pull water to a certain different type of location, right? Or you're going to have purified water where you know where it's going to be at, right? So this right here is literally showing you either the filtration, the diffusion, or osmosis. So diffusion is the movement of solutes, all right? So just to break this down, just what everybody has been telling you on here, anytime you add a solute with a solvent is a water, a universal solvent, right? You put a solvent with a solute, you get a solution. So that is literally telling you the life's problem is in water. I mean, I couldn't put that more simple. That's chemistry. That's God. God made that. I mean, we are the salt of the earth, right? So just understanding this is transport, right? So that's basically what that's telling you. Okay, and it's just the movement of how water, because we're a hollow tube from mouth to anus. So from mouth to anus, when we consume it, water molecules, everything is moving through diffusion. All right, so whether we have too much salt, and we eat some salty, or we have fast food, things of that nature, we're going to be extremely thirsty, right? So this right here breaks down the thirst. Osmotic thirst is superficial, right? It's on the outside, so it's literally going to pull water from the inside of your cells, right, to the outside, because all the salt contents is on the outside, so it's going to dehydrate you, right? And this is one of those reasons why we can't go and sit in the ocean water for too long, or why we can't drink salt water, right? Why we can't drink ocean water, because it will literally pull all the water, the contents of salt water in the ocean will dehydrate you by pulling all the water outside of it, from the inside of your cell outside, which will kill you. Okay, so hypovolemic thirst. Hypovolemic thirst is basically like loss of blood. So when you need fluids, and not just fluids, what I'm saying when I say fluids, not just water, but you're going to need solids to actually go with that. So when you lose blood, things of that nature, you need to actually replenish that with, some food and some water and things of that nature, to put that in together, right? So this literally shows you basically what that looks like within your blood vessels, right? When you eat a meal and you have a lot of solids in your blood, and why you actually kind of want something to drink at that point in time. But if you drink prior to, and you drink at least 45 minutes after you finish, you should be well enough hydrated to actually move that solute and that fluid, that's the solutes, to get them to their right, proper destination. Okay. So this is me, all right? You see where all the salt is at, right? So you talk about a good workout, all the salt is on the outside of my body, right? And on my face. So sweat is produced from the plasma, right? Fluid is lost from the blood, and the blood becomes more osmotic, okay? Which means that more fluid is sucked from the tissue, right? And it's sucked from the tissue, then the osmotic pressure of the tissue fluid is increased, which is then going to draw fluid and osmotically sucked out of the cells. So that's how it moves. Cells form tissues, tissues form organs, and organs form an organ system, okay? So this is literally the movement of water to the outside of my face as it goes back. And my daughter will see it, she'll always tell you, we have to get back to the earth from which we took it from. So a lot of times our weight and the weight that we're carrying is literally water weight and things of that nature that we're holding inside, and we're not getting that energy out. And we're being selfish to Mother Nature because we've took it from her and we have not given back to which we have took it from. Okay. So this is just a chart that literally shows you cellular dehydration and how too much solutes on the outside of that cell is going to pull the water to the outside surrounding, looking to neutralize the salinity. Okay, so that's what it's doing. Water it's looking to neutralize it. Okay, and it just shows you the loss of fluids and solutes for blood. All right, and this is just what this looks like. It's called hypotonic solution, right? The hypotonic is too much solutes inside the blood, right? The blood cells going to force the water to go in,
right? And then hypertonic is all the water all the solutes on the outside. It's going to force the water to go outside of the cell. All right, so once again, we are water, right? So I like to show this, right? Because, we always hear these terms, we like water, we are water. We never really kind of understand, where these things really kind of come from. So things like this helps to put it in proper perspective, right? So everybody has some coins and some metal within their pockets, right? We know that metal comes from the earth. And you can literally see, that dollar has copper, zinc, magnesium, nickel, a lot of these things, right, that we need in our blood, right? But if it's in your pocket and we're water, what are we doing? We're now transporting currency, right, to another spot. So understand where the power of our money and the power of what we do and what we possess in our pockets and how we literally move, right? Because if I say there's a $100,000 job in Phoenix right now, who's willing to take that? So that movement, you just move to another place, right? And salt, they said, quote unquote, salt literally has derived, salary is derived from the word salt, right? Matter of fact, go ahead, we're gonna get there. Ye are the salt of the earth, right? But if the salt has lost its savor, wherewith shall it be salted, right? It's good for nothing to be trampled by, from the foot, underneath your foot. So, I want to show you here, right here. So the Roman Empire, they was told that they would pay their wages in salt, all right? And salary literally comes from salt, all right? So it's literally showing you the importance of what salt was, right? So whether this is myth or not, right, but it's a known practice that salary literally comes from salt. So once again, knowing your movements, and if you're moving towards where the money at, this is how the world literally can predict your movements and where you're going to be, what you're going to do, and everybody has some type of cost of value. It's an exchange rate, right? So understanding this, your movement matters, right? We are water, so we can literally, you drop $100 on the ground right now, everybody want to jump into it. You literally just moved into, where we wanted you to move at. So, let's see where we at. I think I put a little time. We won't go past that. But this is just breaking down salt, right? And you see how water literally dissolves salt in a solution, right? So water literally breaks it, right? It disassembles it, and it breaks those molecules. And as you can see, the oxygen is the negative. Oxygen is electromagnetic, right? So the oxygen side of that water molecule is going to circle around the salt. The sodium part, right? And the chloride is going to have, matter of fact, Pastor Griffin, he's still in there? Am I right on this? Yeah. All right, Pastor Griffin, he is a chemistry major, scientist, been back in 30 years of experience over, right? So, so the chlorine is literally going to attract the hydrogen atoms, right? And this is how it disassociates that salt. All right. So with that, you have electricity that literally forms. Okay. So once again, this is something as you put on there as we are water molecules, right? Things that we gather around, just like those water molecules gathered around the sodium and the chloride. See how we gathered around radio, gathered around TV. There's certain things we gather around food at the table. You know what I mean? So once again, we are water, and we understand those concepts by that way. And this literally shows the breakdown of how these things form these clusters, right? And then it shows you the complexity of what sugar looks like and how, sugar is a completely different molecule structure, how it does not serve a purpose as like salt does, all right? Unless we're talking about glucose or something like that, but it is a sugar, but we're not going to go into that at this point, right? So you have the sodium-potassium pump. So now you have ways that the cell is literally able to access the water and the salts within your body, right? And then once again, we're talking about an exchange, right? So a sodium-potassium pump is going to exchange the sodium for the potassium, right? And it's going to give the inside of the cell the potassium, right? And the inside of that cell, right, it's going to give it 3 sodium. And then that's the part of the exchange, right? And this is how this would work. This is why you have more potassium in the inside of the cell than you do on the outside, and more sodium on the outside.
And literally it shows you, I think here, based on this, you're gonna give 3 salt molecules onto the outside, and then you're only gonna take in 2 potassium, which is not a fair, even exchange, right? So you're gonna get more on the outside than you do on the inside. All right, and this is just showing you basically the different types of things that move within this phospholipid bilayer. So that phospholipid bilayer is water loving, it's polar. This is what makes water such a universal solvent, right? Because water has a polar substance, so it's going to attract the things that it needs, right? But those tails right there are non-polar, right? So they're made of fats, right? So fat we know is non-soluble in water, right? So it's you have hydrophilic, I can't even say the word. What is that? Now, hydrophilic is hydrophobic. So hydrophobic meaning that it has a fear of water, right? So you can see through these transports, right? You have steroids can go straight through and diffuse through, gases can diffuse straight through this, through the cells, right? But then you have channels, right, that moves glucose and ions, right? And then you have water, you know, and then you have things that's called aquaporins and things of that nature, which is what the lady was explaining about earlier, how the water has very small microclusters that's able to diffuse, right? Because once again, we're talking about filtration. Your body is able to filter a lot of different things, okay? And that's just basically why it just shows you the hydrophobic, why, you know, water and oil doesn't mix, right? And this is just a breakdown of that. So you have the hydrophobic tails and the hydrophilic, and every cell in your body is made up of this. Every single cell within your body looks exactly like this. This is why it's extremely important to understand how these cells are structured, because when you know how one cell operates, you know how all of them. I know every last one of y'all going to eat something today. And every one of y'all going to have a bowel movement at some point today, right? So and when you know how one cell moves, you know how all of them move, and then you can be able to predict and know what it is, what it's going to essentially be, right? All cells have what's called an organelle, all right? And just like we have organs within us, we're living cells. Cells have organelles, all right? All right, and about running out of time. So the root cause of the problem, we really talked about it, and I kind of wanted to get into it a little bit real quick. Either you're going to pay the farmer now or you're going to pay the farmer later, right? So, you know, either how we talked about that earlier. All right, and we talked about the root cause. Basically, this is that food chain that I was talking about, right? So we know that rain and sunlight literally produce water. Energy rather, and then it's a cycle of life from there. And the further we are from that chain, the less energy that we're going to be able to consume. All right. And now you can see through the microbes in the soil, right, which is our relationship. So we talked about communication, right, and non-communication is essential because the kingdom gets divided against itself. If a kingdom gets divided against itself, that kingdom can no longer stand. So when we're talking about kingdoms, we're talking about the taxonomy of living things, right? You can see up there on that chart, right? We have the kingdom and we have that domain that we're all operating under. We're all species. You have species of gut in your microbiology, right? That we're reconnecting. Somebody said earlier, we have lost that connection, which gives us those communicable diseases, those non-communicable diseases. So we have to reestablish that, as I was showing you back in the 1960s when we first started talking about, we've lost that connection with our soil, right? And now that you hear everybody talking about repopulating the microbiome and going through anal transfers of poop samples into somebody else's to help repopulate your microbiome, because understand that this bacteria that we had actually helps you to produce, it produces and puts out enzymes. And Dr. Actually, I'm trying to talk about this, but this is
This is your kind of wheelhouse right here, Doc.
Right there.
Go ahead, go ahead, Doc. I'm gonna let you run the spin.
Okay, so, back to the mic again. Okay, I love this part right here, because what happens is that as we are going into hydration and going to correcting our body, we have all of these living bacteria in our, like 700 toxins are emitted and are inside of a human body at any given time. And that's if you only breathe air. That's even if you only drink water. That means if you were just a vegan. That means if you're just a vegetarian. Or it means if you were a carnivore. It doesn't matter. It has no respect. Because those bacteria, we're forgetting that when we eat and when we're not eating, those guys are constantly eating. And they're eating on you. And they're pooping and they're peeing in your system. But then some people say, I don't need to be detoxed. I eat all vegetables. All of the bacteria in your body that's breaking down these vegetables are peeing and pooping in there. So that means your system is still dirty. You got to clean it. Okay? Now we can talk about it all we want to, but that's a fact. Okay? I love this part because not only do we have those bacteria inside of us, we also have pathogens, and we also have little virals, and all of these things that are eating, pooping, and urinating in our system. So when we create a proper gut system, I'll go to the gut system, when we create a proper gut system, those gut systems, microbes that we have, even though we are full of 700 toxins at any given time, when we introduce things into our gut system that has the benefit, what happens is that when they have an internal gut system, this is what it means. How many guys ever seen that movie where the scientist, the mad doctor, sewed the man's mouth to the other man's butt? Okay? That's what probiotics do to your body. As one bacteria poops, another one eats that specific poop, thus eliminating a larger amount of waste in your system, thus keeping your system much balanced. When one urinates, it's like urine therapy that we humans can use for our own self as well. Another bacterium inside of it uses its urine for fuel. But when we do it properly, even though we have the 700 toxins in us, it's 700 balanced toxins that we never carry. When we do it and it's an imbalance in time, we have the 700 toxins that are there, plus, just like the Bible says, when you cast me out, I come back with 7 worse than me. And that's what happens to your body. When it's out of balance, it just keeps going. 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7, 7. Next thing you know, you don't have 700 toxins in your body. You have 7,000 toxins in your body. And you wonder why your ankles are swollen up, why you wake up with the morning breath to scare skunks, why your defecation is so freaking bad and so stinky that you do it in the highest honor in the bathroom on your towels that you're going to wipe your hands in and the toothbrush that you're going to brush your teeth in. You're pooping in that room, feeding the bacteria that's on the towel so that when somebody else comes in there, they can wipe their hands in your poop. Okay? Or when you brush your teeth, you're brushing your teeth and somebody else poop to use your bathroom. See, that's a bacteria exchange what causes things to be imbalanced. But I'm sorry, we're civilized. We have a bathroom in our bedroom because it's private. Every time you open up that private door, you just contaminated your whole freaking room. And then you wonder, why am I itching? I can't get rid of this rash. Yeah. I wake in the morning, I have coal in my eyes. I wonder why you're a freaking breeder of bacteria, not only internally, but now you have gone to the point where you're welcoming it on your towel and your washcloth, and you're introducing it to people who wipe their hands on your towels and your washcloth. You're spreading the wealth. The same way he was talking about sticking something up your butt to get the bacteria out. Ain't no different than your hands and your towels. So we have to understand bacteria. That's why I always say private membership, where's your stomach? Because people really have to be rewrote to understand that health is just not what you eat. Health ain't just what you drink. Health is how you live as a species. Oh, time out.
And I want to say something to that. The brother is right. How many of us go to the store? Go to the grocery store? Or go to any convenience store? How many of us drink that water? Come on now. Don't lie to yourself. Right? You real. You eat the candy, you eat the chips, you eat the sandwiches, you eat the food. Guess what? Where do you think it's coming from? It's coming from that treatment plant. So you get yours and everybody else's too. The brother right. Those are factual. I helped Billy at the age of 15 until the age of 24. So I know what you get. You're talking about bacteria, you drinking it.
That's right. Yeah.
I don't care how you try to boil it out, fish it out, throw it out. You should put it out.
Right.
And as we draw to conclusion, just with everything said, there's a symbiosis, all right, a relationship that we have lost, all right, and that's what that is literally showing you right there. Gut bacteria plays a major role in metabolizing consumed food, metabolites, and foreign chemicals, as well as harvesting energy by producing vitamins, all right. Let's go. And real quick, showing that rainbow soil, something about you, right?
Yes, sir.
The land knows you even when you're lost.
That's right.
We have to find our way back to the land. All right, and with that literally concludes our World Water Conference 24.
Thank you, Brother Chris, for inviting us out. We want to give the audience a round of applause also. I want to thank my son for working with Brother Chris. Oh, you want to finish your walk.
That's right. You just like
This is our future right here. Line water. We thank all our brothers up here on the panel. You know, I appreciate it. I'm thankful, I'm grateful, I'm humble. And I want to say I love each and every one of you. Even if you don't think you know me, you know me. Because we'll always be around. Thank you.
See you.